Okay, hello. Sadism is caused by major clinical depression. That is what causes sadism. Um, a person begins to have no way to get themselves out of their depressive state that they're in, and they refuse to seek mental health help. So they, the only rise that they can get is by conducting these sadist acts. Now, one of there's different types, forms of sadism as well. Like you have the Joel Steinberg case, which people were recommended to view that documentary, in which he is saying that he thinks he's a good father and that he was teaching this young girl lessons. So that's like a form of mental derangement, because he was also heavily using drugs. But you can have people that have that are not actually doing that. They're just mentally deranged. And they begin to think that what it is that that is an excuse to conduct the sadist act. Like there's something in their brain where they're mentally insane, and they make up excuses to keep committing sadist acts against people. And those reasons can change, in particular, when it's sort of like pointed out that they're making up an excuse that doesn't make any sense. Then they'll go on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Another form of sadism is what I call reactionary sadism, in which a sadist act is done purposely, so to try to get people to engage in fighting with them. Like they have a mental derangement where they want to be screaming and yelling, and they're sort of like getting off on the adrenaline of that, and it becomes sort of addicted to doing that, as people use the term addicted. Um, and what they will do is they'll actually go out of their way to try to make you see some sadist act they did. And some people that are drug users actually have sadism like that. Like they are constantly looking for an excuse to use. So they will engage in these nonsense fights and sort of scream and yell, and that's like their excuse why they have to use. Like, see how I can't stop using. So there's different forms of sadism, and in what degree that they come in. Now, when you have someone like a Joel Steinberg, where it's like no matter it doesn't even matter what the person does, like he's just mentally deranged, and it will get worse and worse and worse. Like, I'm at a point here where someone has shut off my Facebook, shut off my Twitter account. The FBI came here and said, stop writing letters. And then just before this video, because I started doing videos and I'm in a, somewhat calm state, someone started messing with the video files, so I couldn't even watch them. That's pretty severe sadism. That's a person or persons that really need to be admitted to a hospital or evaluated, because what can happen is they can just go completely like mentally unhinged and go, as most people would call it, sane, and it's not a very comfortable state for them to be in. I've witnessed that. I've witnessed someone sort of just like, flip out and then end up hospitalized because of trying to make up excuses why I should be starved. And it's like the mind knows that that's completely irrational. So it's like the mind starts to go like insane with these excuses that they're trying to make up. Um, Now, in that case, I think it's definitely based on envy and repetitive negative thoughts about that person, like in their own mind. And also, what that person has done has had negative internal thoughts and thought that I was actually saying. And the reason I know that is because she came forth and asked me once if I said something to her when she was at the refrigerator that she shouldn't be eating. And I have not. So that, and then other times she will try to say that she said something like, Mary wants that air conditioning unit up in the window, and I never said that. Like, so she's having internal voices and attributing them to other people. And for some reason, she's like really always picking me as a target. Like it's really not a safe place for me to be living. And for 6.5 years, other sadists have not provided me housing. So sometimes having to be faced with that you have that sickness, they don't like it. And there was some bit of reactionary sadism going on with the media. For a while, that seems to finally have stopped because that was pointed out, and maybe they finally came out of their little presenting to us their internal sick, where they would kind of like, it's difficult to explain when someone's presenting and you can kind of tell what they're doing, but like the housing, when on day one it was like, okay, now you need to release the housing, and then instead of releasing the housing, they presented to us that they were giving homeowners a tax break. That's sadism, okay? Um, and then sort of like waiting around, what are people going to say on Twitter and tweet us and stuff. Like they were sort of like um, getting off on it. And if you observe a person who has major clinical depression and sadism, and you can see a pattern of sort of like their sadist act, and then they go into an elation. And I observed that in a person at a shelter. And so then I began to sort of observe the media and with incidents like that about the housing. And you could actually tell that it was like one day all of a sudden they'd seem a little bit more elated and smiley and happy as people are, on their home computers suffering and tweeting out this stuff to them. So in order to sort of treat that, the person has to deal with their major clinical depression and stop trying to hide behind sadist acts, and realizing that yelling and screaming fights are not normal. That's not a healthy state of being. So if you're engaging in that regularly, then you need to be seeing a mental health professional and being honest about what you're actually doing in your day-to-day life and what your thoughts are when you're doing it. And like, has anyone ever accused you of being a sadist, or started talking about sadism around you, sort of like kind of trying to hint to you that you might have that issue? Are you fighting with people a lot? Things like that. And one of the things that Victoria used to do when we were growing up is she would say that she was having a debate, that she liked to debate, and it's not that. She has a mental problem where she wants to scream and yell. And when I was younger, she used to have just complete, she'd go into hypomania and and start like throwing pots and pans around and yelling and being like wicked histrionic and just um, things like that, and that's not normal behavior. And doing that throughout children's life from the time they're born up until adulthood is going to cause a lot of anxiety problems and a lot of post-traumatic stress disorder because of all the yelling and screaming and just, you never know when that's going to hit and when there's going to be some drama going on. And so you're kind of like always in that constant, and you never know when you're going to be accused of doing something wrong. I mean, just made up things that you're not even doing because of her, like, envy of her own children, because of her major clinical depression that she refuses to treat. Um, One thing that's kind of funny on CNN is this guy. I don't know if he's just acting and doing this on purpose, but he's kind of just like venting off. And sometimes I kind of go, are they reading someone's like Facebook or Twitter and they're kind of like, making that public, or, he's just doing it himself now. And it's kind of nice and refreshing to see people sort of like acting regular and not putting on these ridiculous fronts to us on television, because um, to go through this process, people have a lot of emotions and stuff that they need to air. And so I don't find any of that really kind of, you know, um, I guess weird. I don't find that weird. It's like more like refreshing. I think the weirdness was everyone being sociopaths. And are there any people that are still trying to act like there's still a government? You know what I mean? And it's not, clearly, people were all kind of just venting, and, many people are trying to stop using, or they're trying to, have a healing process and a process of recovery. Um, I went on a walk today, uh, and it's just the cars. Like, I grew up in this area, and there was not traffic like that. And again, it's like the air, it just totally smells like exhaust fumes. And, like, I don't know if these people just never put their window down, or when you're driving, it's like in your nose or something and you can't smell it. But that's part of the reason about taking the walks, because it's like if you're walking around, there's no way you can't smell that. And you should not be just like, you should be alarmed by it. And kind of like getting what people have been saying. And that, we have to stop burning fuel like that. It's like, what's with all these cars? This particular area is a 10 square mile area, the entire town. I mean, if you saw how many stores and stuff there were, and streets and roads and crossroads and schools and churches, it's like, if all of that was cleared out and you saw how much land was there, you'd be like, holy heck, we were driving around this. Like, if you just had a field that was 10 square miles, and someone said, okay, walk from here to there, which wouldn't even be 10 miles, is what I'm saying. It's 10 square miles. So if you, like, went from one area to the next area and back, you would see how insane this is. So I do hope that people that are driving, walking, are beginning some kind of daily walking around so that they can kind of see this. Maybe when you're in those cars, you don't realize how many cars there are, or you don't realize how insane it is or something. But when you're walking around, it is complete insanity. I mean, even with headphones and a radio today, because there's like moisture on the roads, it's just like so loud. And it's like people are wondering why their children are locked in, or their children have sensitivity problems, or their children have, what they're calling autism and different spectrum, and all that stuff. It's because of that. Because it's not healthy. It's not healthy of mind. We're not created to be living like that. That's like raising children next to a firing range, and then wondering why they all have PTSD or something, or like raising your kid in a ditch in World War I with like grenades going off all around them, and then kind of acting like that's normal. Um, so that's sort of my thing. Like it's always going to go back to the same thing about the drivers, because when they can't drive anymore, they're going to be forced to have to do this process. So that's still the main message coming from here is about the cars, because this is a condensed area, so people should not be driving around here. It's kind of like New York City. If people were still driving there, how insane that is. Um, it, that type of thing. I mean, that's not even trains. Well, I guess probably buses, but I don't know what the plan is with the trains during a transition. But um, that's just cars. There's absolutely no reason whatsoever for anyone in this town to have a car.